Hi, my name is Bill Erickson. I'm with Equinox Software, and I'm an Evergreen developer. So I wanted to talk today really briefly about Pylons. We're using Pylons as our web application framework for the acquisitions system for Evergreen. And Pylons is a Python web framework. It's similar to Django, TurboGears, and a number of others that are out there. I was very happy with Pylons because it's a highly, good Lord. So here's the Pylons home site here. But basically, it's a Python web framework. It's very modular. You can plug in all kinds of different database layers, different session layers, caching layers, template layers. You can kind of go to town and use whatever you want to use with it. And that really appealed to me because it means you can kind of change things over time. Very briefly, you can run it in Paster, which is kind of a local development server that I use. You can also run it in Apache. You can run it in FastCGI, and Pylons sits on top of a thing called Paste, which additionally sits on top of WSGI, which is the Python Web Server Gateway interface. And that basically gives a consistent way for web applications to talk to web servers, so you can kind of move these things around and they're very portable. And that's one of the things I wanted to look at very briefly today, because one of the cool things about Pylons is you don't really need to know it that well to use it. You can kind of just plug it in and go to town. But it offers a lot of really cool stuff that if you don't kind of dig around and look for them, you may not know they're there. So I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of learn something new about Pylons. So one of the cool things about Pylons and WSGI in particular is it allows you to plug in middleware apps. So you can take in a web application you already have, plug in a middleware app, and it'll either pre-process or post-process your data in some form that you kind of make up on your own. So here's an example of where I'm plugging in two different middleware apps into the acquisition system right now, the test system we have set up. Right down here, I have two apps, and I just plug them right into the middle here. And I'm going to step ahead to the next slide. So this is what I'm calling my XML-lint middleware. It's a very small amount of code, and basically all it does is it parses HTML as it goes out to make sure it's valid XML. Now, I don't know how many of you guys are web developers, but I always mess something small up, and then I'll go to look at the page, and it doesn't look quite right. And I'll usually go to the Firefox DOM inspector, and you'll find that the div that's supposed to be a child of this object is a child of some other object, and you have no idea what's going on. And what it usually is just a typo. You know, it's not really valid XML, but the browser will display it because it's HTML. So this code just parses it, and if it finds a problem, it'll tell you about it in the logs. So here I have a template here, a Mako template. I have an unclosed TR tag. Run it, and then my little code here just spits out a warning. So this isn't affecting the development. It's not changing. It's not blowing up or anything like that when it displays. But if you're watching the console when you're developing, you can say, oh, I need to go back in there and look at line 173, fix my tag, and then everything works again. So this took me just a couple of minutes to write, and I thought, well, this is kind of cool. Maybe I can take this a little bit farther and maybe get a little cute with it, see what we can do. So then I thought, oh, well, I'll write an app that post-processes the page and then highlights words that I want to see for whatever reason. So here's my little highlighter code. And all this is really doing is saying, give me a list of terms, and if I find them in the page, I will wrap them in this crudely inserted bold bit of HTML here with some inline CSS. So inside of my actual app, I have a search app, and whatever terms you put in there, it inserts those into this list of terms, runs them through the regex and the outbound, and then highlights it. So I have my test search page here for ACK. I have I'm searching for a title Potter. That's my term. So when I search for that, it goes into the list of strings, runs through the outbound processor, and then we have all these highlighted Potters here. So 10 lines of code, super easy. I thought it was kind of cool, and you can probably do a whole lot more cool stuff with it. So there's Pylons. Thanks.